Alright, y'all hang with me for just a second. We'll dive into the charts, trying to grab a couple of links for some people, as well as pull together a list of stocks that people want me to look over. So, if there's any specific tickers you want me to look at, feel free to throw them in the live stream chat and I'll check them out, as well as over in the chat over here on the Discords as well. Yeah, he wanted me to look at Fubo. I got you. Alright, let's see. And we'll jump in and I'll pull up the other list here in a moment whenever people need me to. Put this over here because I've got too many screens. It's here. Alright, cool. Alright, let's jump in. So, for the sake of time, I won't spend a ton of time on Tesla necessarily today. We'll kind of jump into some of the specific tickers y'all are wanting to look at, as well as some of the specific tickers that we're actively trading. But first, we've got to look at this thing, because I don't know that we could have got a better entry on some fresh calls on this thing earlier today. But earlier today I saw some weird flows and some movement, and then I saw some consolidation, and then jumped in some fresh calls right over in here on Invis, and then this thing went freaking nuts and just ripped over 30% on the day. So several different screeners I look for and monitor over here. This one goes up on the feed quite a bit, but there's also quite a few that I've got set up. But notice some good movement there, but also let me grab this and show you really quick something to keep an eye on with Invis. And then we'll look at the actual charts and patterns and all that fun stuff for other stuff here in a second. But Invis is one of the few tickers that is truly a short squeeze candidate. Notice the short score over here is a 94.5 of 100, and overall, looking through the short data, this is actually a good short squeeze candidate. Thus, why we probably saw this massive move earlier today of over 30% on the day. So definitely keep an eye on this, because if it does break out to the upside here, again, yes, I'm in shares at 88 cents, but there's an inverse head and shoulders set up here as well. This thing can actually keep on ripping. Look at the massive volume candle. That's insane. Did not expect that to happen by any means. Whenever I entered August calls earlier today, that ended up ripping huge. So BBA, hold on, let me go look at it. Stevie's tripping over BBAI. Oh, it jumped off a cliff. So this is why I did not enter new calls yet on BBAI. Patience. I kept watching it all day, looking for whether or not we should enter. I know several people mentioned new contract that they had signed or something else. For me, the price action was just a bit odd, so I waited. I did not enter new calls on BBAI. I wanted to hold off and see kind of what happened and not rush into anything, which, judging by this dive in after hours, is probably good I didn't. Anybody know what happened? I haven't looked at any news or data yet here. Look. Can't spell. Interesting. I don't know. It did dive in after hours, didn't it? So I will be watching BBAI, and I'll alert swing calls or more shares on this thing if I see the setup makes sense. But ideally, selfishly, I'd like to see it pull back a little bit more before I add calls on it. So it looks like we're maintaining the uptrend, even with that drop in post market right there. So I'd love even to see it pull back to this 463 range again. I'll be watching to see if it makes sense to add new calls. I'm already out of the 350 calls that we were in several months ago, so keep an eye on here, see if it makes sense to add something new. Definitely don't want to rush in just because you see positive news like a new contract, because stuff like this, right? So be careful on BBAI. Real quick, Fubo, since you asked about it in the chat channel, and then we'll dive into the other stuff we're in. So Fubo, I've been watching several things on Fubo. I've been watching for a breakout of this downtrend we've got going on here. Ideally, I'd like to see it break out to the upside with some strong buying volume. But right now, it's just kind of consolidating in this zone. So I have been watching this. This is another one that needs to go on my potential swings list. And I guess y'all are getting a bit of a sneak peek right there to some of the stuff that I am keeping an eye on. I think BPA I noticed on there. But watching this for a setup that actually makes sense. Not to say that the setup right now doesn't make sense, but it could still break either direction. So I've been waiting, letting the premiums kind of get wrecked a little bit more before I make the decision to enter into something new on Fubo. Also saw some odd options movement on Fubo yesterday on the chain. So let's see. Talk is another one you got there. Talkspace. So here, alright, I'm going to do this real quick because several people have been asking, how do you do technical analysis? And I'll use this segment, how far we in? Like 12 minutes, right at 13 minutes into the video. So I'll pull this as a snippet after the fact, but this is a clean chart that we have not yet pulled anything on. So how would I go about drawing technical analysis on this? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the weekly time frame, see my weekly candles here, and I'm going to look for levels of support and resistance on the weekly time frame. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mark those with a horizontal ray. Right here you can see I've got a support level in this zone that acted as resistance here, and then here we had a big candle that kind of pushed up and pierced it, but we want to see follow through above that. But you can see support, resistance, resistance, that's a level of significance on the day or on the weekly. Now I'm going to do something similar for these other zones here. And why am I picking these levels? Well, when it comes to technical analysis, there's not a specific exact way you're going to go about it. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone. That being said, I'm typically a bit more conservative with the way I'll draw my lines. Again, resistance level here, support there. Ultimately, what you're seeing here, these support and resistance levels, those are supply and demand zones. You'll see that the price action plays off those levels. So again, drawing this out based on the weekly candles, and then I'll work my way down to the daily. So I really would like to move one a little bit higher, probably in that range, but we'll mark that when we get to the daily here in a second. So really just marking the key levels of significance there, jumping over to daily. Alright, I had to check and make sure the mic was on because the last time I did a video recording I talked for 20 minutes and it was on mute. So here, looking at the daily, you can see even more so than on that weekly how these levels were respected here and here, right? So what I want to do now, and let me get this RSI out of the way for the moment because it's just hogging up space. Now I'm going to see if there's additional levels I need to mark on the daily, and you can see here that we had this levels of resistance over here. And also bounced off of it there. Looks like we're actually going to test and bounce off of it there again. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that as a major, which solid yellow for me is major. You can see in the description what I use. Solid yellow being major, and then dotted yellow for minor levels. And what I use for my criteria for that is how was that level respected on bigger candles such as daily or weekly, as compared to how was level respected on smaller candles like a 5 minute, 15 minute, 1 hour, something like that. Also note, I never went down to the 1 minute or anything like that because it's really not relevant for the style of trading most of us do. If I was also doing this fresh and let's say this gap here had not yet been filled, what I would do is I would mark this as a dotted purple to signify that there's a gap on the daily over here that had not yet been filled. And then as it got over here and this worked its way back up and filled that gap, at that point, I changed that gap to a solid purple line to signify that that gap has been filled. Why do I do that? Because gap fill levels end up being levels of support and resistance historically. So I like marking them and leaving them that way. There was a gap here for the sake of this ticker, just because I don't see me trading this a whole lot. I'm not going to mark every little gap that's already been filled across the time frame. I'll stop here at the daily and kind of look at the levels we've got here. I do want to look at what's our next levels to the upside here. So you can see that we had a resistance level here. It looks like those respected at least at one point. I'm going to draw it over here because you can see it was double tapped. Marking that as a major level of resistance overhead. And then, yeah, also way back here in 2021, it looks like there's a consolidation zone up there. I don't know a lot about this ticker. Just grabbed it based off of Almonds throwing it up in the chat there. Looked like a good one to kind of walk through the basics of how to go about drawing your support and resistance levels and zones. So what do we got going on here? It actually looks like there's a bit of an inverse head and shoulders here. If I wanted to watch that from a technical standpoint, if y'all are trying to figure out what in the heck is this dude talking about, I'm gonna draw it right here for you. Did something funky there. Don't know what I did, but at any rate, this is still here in valid. So I'd be watching that. I don't like that. That doesn't. I mean, it's still valid, completely and totally. That's inverse head and shoulders on the weekly. I just don't love the angle of it for whatever reason. Sorry. But yeah, watching this because it looks like it wants to pull a reversal off the weekly time frame. But again, I don't know much about this ticker, so I'd have to go look at the options flows and other things to see what else is going on here. It does appear to be in a strong uptrend at this point, so that's positive. Look for it to maintain that uptrend channel it's got going on there, and make sure it doesn't turn into a rising wedge. But as of right now, it's got a nice uptrend channel that you can follow, or ascending channel is a better way to refer to that. If this is a ticker you've been trading for a while, then that might be a good opportunity to trade within that channel, and as long as the bullish momentum and setup maintains, right? So definitely use that channel to play it, and then those support and resistance zones. So if I was entering a long here, if we got confirmation of a breakout to the upside over $4, positive catalyst, strong buying volume, then you could look at trading it to the next resistance level. That being said, it does look like they also have earnings tomorrow, so I personally wouldn't be entering anything on this until after earnings if I was going to trade it. You want me to look at Fubo's volume real quick? Yeah, let me look real quick. Yeah, so what was the agreement or whatever that came out last month on Fubo? Or was it Roku's earnings? I can't remember what caused that big huge move on Fubo, but I remember there was some kind of catalyst that sparked it. DBAI turnaround. Yeah, it caught a support zone, Stevie. See? This is why historical support and resistance levels matter. Yeah, I'm gonna wait on BBAI and look and see what it does tomorrow. I mean, ultimately it does have a demand zone here and strong demand zone here. If it loses this level, it's probably going to head way back down to this demand zone from the weekly. You can see that there's lots of demand down in this range, so that would be a good, like a great re-entry opportunity if you see a bounce off of that 463 level to the upside. Like I said earlier, selfishly I'd love to see 463 again, but let me make sure, see what other tickers we got. Flex talking through it on the play. Alright. So Palantir. Everybody's freaking out because Palantir's taking a nosedive off the news of the CEO selling his shares. Don't blame the dude for selling shares. It's up significantly, and also executive leadership team members typically have a significant portion of their compensation tied to share payouts. So normal to see that. $1 billion in shares is also, I mean, market cap wise, probably negligible. What's the market cap up to now? Yeah, 255 billion. Okay, so like he's selling $1 billion in shares. This is going to give a good opportunity for people to take and enter on a pullback, honestly, especially if this thing holds over $100, which is that same level and range I've been talking about. Great opportunity for us to re-enter long calls, which is exactly what I've been waiting for, is a good opportunity to enter fresh long-term calls on Palantir. Still maintaining my shares. Had I known the news was going to break like that, I probably would have sold covered calls before the dive, and honestly I probably should have sold a few covered calls before close today just to hedge accordingly. But that being said, still fine. Very much still an uptrend. We completed the measured move and then some and made a new all-time high today, so I can't be upset about that at all. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these measured moves that we completed multiple times, and then we'll keep tracking these levels. If it ventures into this gap here, it probably will head back and finally fill this gap. My feelings would not be hurt to see that gap get filled at all, but we'll have to see, because even though Palantir's CEO selling shares and government spending and contracts got slashed a bit, Palantir still got a lot of bullish stuff going on with it, so I'm not worried at this point. I'm gonna delete these so that we've got cleanliness on the charts, and then we'll keep watching the levels. But yeah, good opportunity here for somebody. Like I said, I wish I would have hedged my positions a bit more before close, but it is what it is. So Palantir's looking solid. I'll look for a new entry opportunity and alert it on Palantir where it makes sense. Again, we don't have to rush into something, so don't feel like just because it's down, you have to jump in tomorrow. The big thing, even with big drops, is that IV gets spiked on premiums on both sides a bit. So you want to be patient and wait for a good reversal and bounce off a key support level for something like that. If you go back and you look, there's actually several times where we had big fat red candles and dropped on Palantir in the past, and then buyer stepped in and then kicked back up. So curious to see if the selling we're seeing right now is actually the CEO already executing on that, so we should get clarity on filings with that in the coming days either way. But yeah, I'll be watching that. I'd like to see Palantir hold 100. If it doesn't, if it hits that gap fill, that's fine too. I'll buy it up. Let's see. Did talk. We looked at that. Disney merger. Ah, yeah, Fubo. Thanks, Armin. Agony wants AI and TradingView layout. You got it. So weekly, I want to see it come back and test again. I'd be okay with that. It's retesting the same support level again. Yeah, let me do this. I'll just drop this in the chat so you'll have it. Oop. Sorry, moving a little slow because this one's different than it is over on my other screen. There you go. Have at it. And if there's ever any of my charts y'all want like that, just so that you can actually see it better, just let me know. I'm happy to share them. So AI, what we got going on here? AI is getting a pullback with Nvidia and several others right now, it seems like, but ultimately I want to see AI hold this back test level here. I'm not worried if it dips below a little bit in after hours. I'd like to see it back test and bounce at 27.45 or higher before I add to positions or anything like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark a minor support level right in here just because it did try to hold that a couple of times before. Definitely watching this to see how it shakes out in the coming days and weeks, because it did already play out that inverse head and shoulders here. I guess it's about time to start cleaning up some of these patterns we already traded and moved higher. But yeah, we'll see if this back test into that demand zone holds up or not. Let's see, what was next? Palantir to 42, let's go. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen, dude. If it does, that's fantastic. I will load the boat on that. But it's a combination of HARP and the defense budget. That defense budget impact is minimal on Palantir, but HARP, anytime you've got a CEO selling like that, people set into panic because they're like, oh, the leadership is going to be selling because they don't think it's going to go higher, but that's not always the case. HARP. Sound, yeah, sound. AMD looks like it's turning. Yeah, so Prakash, I'll look at AMD here in a second because it's in that same state where it was before, where it's kind of dangerous and can go either direction. So SoundHound AI, I've been watching this after we took that big dip last week because Nvidia announced that they were selling off shares. I've been watching for reversal. It attempted a little bit of a potential reversal here with this bullish engulfing, but then the momentum and follow through is lacking. See the lacking volume? So I'm watching this because the breakdown to the downside could put us at 873, but there's a gap sitting at 1019. I want to see if it can turn around and reverse here. When is earnings? 27th. So yeah, I'm still watching sound very closely to see about entry of calls on a reversal, but have not acted on anything yet. Been watching it very, very patiently. AMD. So yeah, AMD's a good one to talk through because there's a lot going on here on these charts, and these charts are busy. Let me do this. For one, let me clean this up a little bit and then we'll dig in deeper. I want the dotted yellow to go away. We're just going to delete them both. Sorry, I'm talking to myself, or talking to y'all more so I guess as I'm going through this and trying to vocalize what my thoughts are so that y'all can follow. But ultimately, AMD played out this bear flag to the downside, right? So here's what I'm going to caution people on again with AMD, because I know everybody's been loading the boat on calls ever since we got that bounce, but if you go back and you look at the technicals I shared previously, for one, we completed this downside measured move, so I'll go ahead and delete that for the bear flag breakdown just so that we have it. This is a rising wedge right now, okay, which is a retracement and potentially a rejection here at this key 114.84 level. So I want people to be cautious on AMD. I think anyone that's been in any of the discords I'm in can attest that I've wanted to go bullish on AMD for a long time, but I've been patient because I know that we have yet to form a higher high over and over again. So as of right now, you've got, I'll look at this a bit closer, and sorry for all the lines, but I'm leaving them because there's multiple strategies in play. So high, lower low, lower high, or I guess this one. Lower low, lower high, right? You follow? Lower low, lower high. So as of right now, downtrend still intact. You don't want to enter something like this based off of just poking above that type of trend line. For one, that looks like it's trying to reject at the trend line. Also, price action's increasing, volume is decreasing. Buyer exhaustion. So be careful on the idea of entering AMD long here. Like I said, I really want to go long on AMD. I've been waiting to enter swing calls and shares on AMD for a while now, but it can break lower here. So I'm making myself be patient and wait. Even if I have to enter a bit higher after there's confirmation, I'm okay with that. I'd rather enter higher after confirmation than be stuck in a situation where this thing drops back down and hits the 94, because it definitely can here. There's a lot of uncertainty in that zone. So definitely be cautious on AMD in the zone. Not actively trading anything on it at this point, calls or puts. If you're long, look over some of the analysis I posted on the Facebook groups or Discords recently on hedging. Maybe either with a put or covered calls if you want. This is actually, if you're long on shares on AMD and you want to hedge on a big green day in a resistance zone like this, that's a good opportunity to sell covered calls. That way the premiums are in your favor as option seller, then you can buy to close it on a pullback if you need to, and handle that accordingly. Let's see. Oh, Stevie's got a list for us over here. So AI we looked at, DraftKings. Let's see DraftKings real quick. So DraftKings is a good example for me to talk through from several technical components. Traded this, stealing runner calls on it because it completed this upside measured move following earnings, which here, plot twist, or earnings ripped anyways. So that's why you don't gamble directly with earnings necessarily by itself, right? I told everybody what I did with DraftKings. I trimmed to cover my full cost basis ahead of earnings and then just rode runners through it. So definitely be careful on DraftKings here. Sorry, checking to make sure I'm not missing a phone call. Oh. Okay. So DraftKings, it looks like it's actually back tested this previous resistance as support. So see if it can hold that breakout level. DraftKings can actually go higher here. If you look back at historicals, which I didn't mark all of them yet, you got a level there, you got a level there, so also right. Where are we at? Right there. Right there, right there, and you notice over here how rejected the same zone. So watching that to see if it maintains a bullish setup and pattern. If this is just retracement before upward continuation, we'll see. But as of right now, that's what's up on DraftKings. Grab. So grab, I've been looking and watching for entry of some new calls. And I see now that I might have should have. Well, no, it looks like I'm glad I didn't based off that drop. Wow, what's up with grabbing after hours? So we were in calls and shares that ripped. Great opportunity to trim and lock gains over here based off the previous setup. What I'm looking for here is, now that it is broke out, is it going to back test this range here and then from there move to the upside? Because the measured move of that current bullish setup that it broke out of is up here in the $7 range, but this is why it's important to trim to cover cost and then ride runners from there, because stuff like this where we get big pullbacks, which we can't be that freaked out about that, because y'all can see that trading range right there, like it's been literally doing this within days, right? So low volume, low liquidity movement in after hours can be a bit sporadic, especially on these cheaper tickers. So watch those levels and we'll see if it holds the breakout. Blackberry, similar thing going on here. This one perfectly tagged the resistance level that we had marked overhead, and then it's consolidating in this zone. Ideally, I'd like to see it consolidate, hold above this 551 range, and then move higher. I'm looking for a good opportunity on Blackberry to add to fresh long-term calls on it. Already in shares, so looking for the setup to continue. Looks like buyer volume's tapering off finally today. Oh, that's the weekly. Never mind. Yeah, so we're getting some selling consolidation, but as of right now, nothing too concerning on Blackberry. So watching these levels to see if we push towards that 854 gap fill or not. We look at the list. Agony asked if I talked about my favorite topic, crypto. No. But since you bring it up, let me jump on over here and talk about how I'm still not concerned about Bitcoin. So as you can see here, Bitcoin is still holding the support zone and range, and is still, yet again, maintaining the bullish consolidation zone. So this is still a bull flag on the weekly chart, and this is still healthy consolidation. In fact, notice how the seller volume is dissipating in the consolidation now. Look for a catalyst and strong buyer volume to step in and rip to the upside, because this is how we form new highs. So still not concerned at all about crypto and Bitcoin and several others right here. If anything, this is a fantastic opportunity to add to longs. Sorry, this thing got real busy this weekend because I was scalping leverage futures on XRP. So let me delete a lot of these small time frame levels that I was scalping leverage futures off of, but it's not so chaotic. It's still gonna be a little chaotic, but maybe not so much to look at. I'm gonna leave the resting in case I trade some more crypto leverage futures on it tonight. Keep in mind, I mark and I monitor both directions and both patterns on charts, because I want to make sure I don't have a bias with something, even as bullish biased as I can be with crypto. There is a head and shoulders pattern in this flag on XRP that I'm monitoring closely. If we break out to the upside with strong volume on XRP, then the measured move puts us around that 440, 435 range. Alternatively, if we break to the downside of this neckline, specifically if we break and confirm on a daily and weekly candle below 188, which you can see that massive wick right there, somebody got a fantastic opportunity to buy in at 178 or 177 on XRP a couple of weeks ago, but we maintain the setup in the range, then we're good for more continuation to the upside. If we break to the downside, then the measured move is going to play out to where we follow along that. So the measured move on that head and shoulders is 40% down. That could get pretty gnarly. I'm not super concerned about it right now, because ultimately I bet that this bullish momentum ends up picking up and moving higher. But just being real, calling out both sides of the setup there, full transparency. Let's see. Yeah. I mean, I'm also like everybody's talking about alt season and bull run being over, but if you go over and look at Bitcoin dominance, that's not what's reflected. So we haven't even hit alt season yet, regardless of what people feel. So if you look at Bitcoin dominance, which I typically don't like to stick to like pure technical patterns and stuff on Bitcoin dominance because it can be a bit misleading, but also you can see here how it supports the case. What happens whenever like the cycle is over or starting to wind down on a bull run with crypto is you have alt season that kicks in and you get money flowing out of Bitcoin into altcoins. Previously that was Ethereum. Not going to happen this go round. Mentioned it on other streams before, mainly because the miners, crypto miners, GPU miners, ASICs miners, they drove a lot of the movement with Ethereum the last cycle because it was still proof of work. It is now proof of stake. So you won't see nearly as much momentum and push with Ethereum because at the end of the day, it's still a network that's prone to congestion as well as expensive gas fees. So what I think you'll see more so this go round is money coming out of Bitcoin and rolling into things like Solana and several other altcoin project based chains. But what would we see for that to happen? So when that occurs, Bitcoin dominance falls off a cliff. So similar to what you saw back here in March 2021, where Bitcoin dominance literally dove hard, and then Bitcoin still had some movement to the upside and everything in there, but that's where the flood of money into altcoins occurred. And then you go into bear market season of the crypto realm, which is just a normal part of the cycle, and hopefully by now people have learned this is where you accumulate and you load the boat on crypto. And then we are now in the bull market again, right? And continued up. So as you can see right here, Bitcoin dominance is still maintaining and likely heads up to that 70% level or higher before we see true alt season kick in. So not concerned here. If anything, Bitcoin's probably going to catch some more catalysts in the coming weeks and push higher. So we'll see what happens. Ooh, there's inverse head and shoulders on Bitcoin right now. I'd be entering leverage long positions if I see a break above that. I might go do that here in a minute. If you haven't already, please do click the like and subscribe button if you'd like. Let's see. Stevie wants me to look at Reddit. Or here, let me click Solana real quick. I'm right here because I think a few people are freaking out over Solana when you shouldn't be. So Solana's actually sitting in a fantastic spot and it's retesting the support range here. So what we got going on with Solana? Solana is in this nice big bull flag here, this bullish pennant, and it's back testing in the range. Notice as we've been selling off, notice how the volume is tapering off. Seller exhaustion is occurring. Don't be shocked if we see a nice big fat bounce off this support range and make a new high on Solana in the coming weeks and months. And keep in mind all the stuff I just mentioned relate to alt season. So we have not hit alt season yet. I'll delete the big green thing just so y'all can see that clearer. But yeah, my Solana entry is somewhere down over in this range. But that being said, that doesn't mean people can't enter longer term up in this range. So not a bad spot to add longs if you want to be safer on it. You could look for support range to hold here with this bounce, but you can see how quickly we can go from this range to just rip to 250 plus. So keep in mind, just in November we were in this range and now we're about to bounce and move higher. So Solana's still looking good. Let me jump over to Reddit real quick. So Reddit, here's the levels I'm monitoring on Reddit. I think I shared TA on Reddit. Nothing's really changed on it since I posted that, but you can see here it's trying to maintain this ascending channel that it's in right now. It's pulling back, doing a little bit of consolidation. Looks like it might test that demand zone there and bounce, which would be great. I'm not actively in any Reddit trades. I know some of y'all are, but I'd be looking forward to back test there and bounce. Let's see, QUBT. So quantum computing. I haven't charted this one yet. Let me do the quick crank through on this. If y'all are just now joining in and like, what is he clicking? Jump back to, I think it was around 13 minutes into the video. And I did a walkthrough of how to go about doing some basic technical analysis that keeps things simple, but is still highly effective for monitoring and trading based off price action trading and supply and demand zones. So mark those levels there. And notice how I marked them over here, but then if we look back, it's the same exact levels. They're respected historically, right? It matters. So that's the levels I would watch on this thing. If I recall right, this is the one that's not actually... Yeah, so quantum computing's interesting to see how it plays out in the coming weeks and months. I think there's a lot of uncertainty going around. There's a head and shoulders there in play, but also there's a gap to the upside that may get filled. So I don't know which way this thing plays out. Worth keeping an eye on because it looks like it's trying to hold that demand zone. If it does and gets a breakout to the upside, might be a good opportunity to trade because you've got so much room right there on a cheaper stock. Like if it breaks to the upside $10, might head towards that gap fill at 16.37. So adding that to my potential swing list actually to keep an eye on. And yeah, I don't know, there's a quicker way to do that than I just did, but I did it that way anyways. Let's see. Yeah, here, let me do the big text for you real quick and then I'll wrap up here in a few minutes, but... No, Stevie, you said that's all. Maybe. Alright, here, I'll come back to it in just a second. Because that one also, RGTI, is very similar to what we saw on the previous levels. I was really confused for a second. I was like, when did we get back to this level? We did. We're still chilling down here. So Microsoft's trying really hard to not break this trend line, right? Watch Microsoft closely here. Like I've said on previous streams, I'm not trading calls or puts on Microsoft in a range like this. The risk to reward is not worth it for me. It is breaking out of this descending channel right now. So if it can hold above that 414.25, which is the key level on it, it could push towards 420. That being said, I'm not really trusting the movement and price action we had on a lot of stuff today. If you look at the kind of takeaways from the Fed FOMC meeting minutes from January that were released today, there's a lot of uncertainty still looming. We have jobless data and several other data points coming in the morning and on Friday, so I would tread carefully here. I would, on something like this, for one, I don't like fighting against a larger time frame setup that looks this filthy to where it could like significantly break hard to the downside, or it could potentially break and move to the upside and test a breakout. But both those patterns are in play here for Microsoft. If you're a long-term shareholder, good places to hedge on big green days like today, but I'm not going to actively swing anything on Microsoft in that range. Just risk to reward's not worth it. But Google, so here's what's up on Google Analyzer. It's actually playing out this downside breakdown right now and moving towards this measured move at 176. So I'm watching this to see what happens, to see if it can retake that support zone at 185 or if it's going to continue downward. But Google just, it gets real wacky because a single antitrust lawsuit can make havoc happen on Google. But watching this to see what happens. Another one that I'm not actively trading any new calls or puts on at this point, just because risk to reward's not making sense yet. Once the setup makes sense, I will enter them. Amazon, so like Amazon's trying to look bullish for me, and I love this right now, especially since Rivian has their earnings coming into play tomorrow as well. Y'all know I'm long on some Rivian calls and shares, but Amazon's actually doing a good retracement pullback here to this demand zone, so we could see a nice bounce off this level here. We'll be watching to see what happens. Also, it looks like it's trying to hold the previous trend lines, which I'd have to go back and look and see what those were drawn based on. Sorry, it's a bit messy. Been trading this all over the place the last few months. We did break this uptrend though, so I'm going to delete that now. And we completed that measured move to the upside as well. So I'm going to delete that for the time being. That's not to say that I like only bearish by any means, because like I just said, I'd like to see this thing bounce and move higher at this point. But we need buyers to step in and some of the uncertainty to get out of the way with Amazon to move higher. So watching those levels, United Healthcare, I don't know if I even want to look because I almost bought puts on this thing a while back. Yep, still FOMOing right now. I almost bought puts on this back at the end of November because I saw some weird options flow, and then all of a sudden that news came out with the CEO and everything else, and then it cliff dove, and I could have made huge gains on puts with that. But United looks like it's trying to hold this demand zone. For the sake of time, I'm not going to actually draw the levels on this one. I'll come back and do it. Remind me and go throw it over in the analysis request channel. That way I can pull it and do the detailed analysis for you separately just for the sake of time. So Merck, this one's also trying to catch a bounce, it looks like, but you want to watch out and make sure that you're not catching a dead cat bounce on something like that. So again, throw this one over there too so that I can do a more detailed breakdown for you. Tony called Stevie out. But Stevie, here's RGTI. So same levels from the analysis I posted the other day are still applicable on it. It does look like it had some nice buyer volume there, but a lot of this stuff's kind of moving all over the place at the moment, so be cautious on that. Rivian and Lucid, absolutely. I'll definitely talk about some Rivian. I don't know why I haven't yet on the stream. So, Rivian. For one, earnings tomorrow. More risk involved with that, right? And like I said earlier, I'm not going to only look at one direction of the chart regardless of how bullish I am on a given ticker. So ideally on Rivian, what I would like to see here is a break to the upside with a positive catalyst, whether that's earnings or something else. If it rejects or gets bad news on earnings, we could see this thing dive and potentially retest the 1097 level or lower. But I would like to see it keep forming higher lows on the setup, right? As of right now, we've got a low, a high, and then the lower high. I'm not loving this. I'm sorry, the higher low, and then the lower high. So I'm not loving that. But that being said, all we got going on here now is a tightening and consolidation of a pennant. So this thing could break either direction from there. What I want to see though is on this weekly a breakout to the upside with strong volume to pierce through those trend lines and form a new higher high above that and that. So watching this to see if we can get the push. Not expecting 40% in a single day or anything like that. Although the way things are lately, it wouldn't shock me either. So watching this to see what happens with earnings tomorrow. Lucid. So check out Lucid here. Lucid back tested and then bounced to the upside, has a nice big inverse head and shoulders now. So if Lucid can catch strong volume, when is Lucid's earnings? Next week? Alright, next Thursday. Alright, so I have seen more Lucid vehicles, which is odd because like they're kind of like a very small market overall and they aren't trying to be the cheapest by any means, but I've seen local Lucid vehicles here in Rockwall. And not only where there's Lucid dealerships, like over at Legacy West in Dallas, Plano, Frisco area. Sorry, it's Frisco. But seen Lucids locally, privately owned, non-dealer plates. Even saw a Lucid maintenance vehicle van here in Rockwall. So the Saudi Public Investment Fund still owns like majority of the shares by far, and they're not going to sell them. Everybody keeps on being worried about what if they sell, and maybe they do, but it's part of their green initiative that's supposed to be through like 2030, so I'm really not concerned about the Saudis dropping off and selling Lucid all of a sudden, but they literally own 58% of the shares. So what's that mean? That means that there's pretty minimal outstanding shares tradable on the open market, which means this thing can move very rapidly if buyers step in with strong volume. So Lucid, looking for a fresh breakout to the upside here. The setup we traded previously was fantastic. I started easing into some more longer term calls on it as well. What we've got going on here is potentially a back test on the weekly and a breakout to the upside. So definitely keep an eye on Lucid here, because this is one that when it moves, it moves. Earnings might be the catalyst. If Rivian gets a good positive pop tomorrow off earnings, it might serve as a sympathy play. So definitely keep an eye on that and see what plays out on Lucid. It's a cheap stock that's volatile, so if volatility is not your thing, stay away from it. But lots of potential. Let's see. Other tickers. We got Lucid, we got Rivian. On this chat, let me see what's on this other chat real quick before I wrap up. How we got a spammer in bullish raid. I reported his message. Sorry, trying to tag this because I want spammer to get somebody. There you go. Hal got him already. Sweet. Any other tickers y'all want me to go through? If not, I might wrap up. But here, let me check real quick and make sure I didn't skip any that we're actively trading. I think there's a couple that I was actually going to show y'all. Like we talked about MViz earlier. Baba hit a new high again because it just won't stop. Yesterday, right? Where's my update list from today? Alright, so MViz. Oh, Applied Digital. Yeah. So check this out. Trying to make a comeback. So the calls that we entered into on the balance and retracement at the key support level here actually popped off again. I don't love this dissipation of volume here. I'd like to see more volume step in here, but it is midweek, so maybe it's just not there yet. No, it's dissipating on the daily as well. So good opportunity to trim to cover cost basis while we're up over 50% on the calls right now, but looking for upward continuation because this thing did break out of a downtrend channel here to the upside, but we need to form a new high. So Applied Digital is still looking great. AT&T is one that we've been trading some swing calls on, and this has been one of those nice, slow moving, fantastic paying calls. They went over 100% today. Whee! So nice, good, solid continuation movement here without all the crazy rapid movement on certain options. So this was a good swing option call that you could trade. Charge point. So charge point's got some interesting movement on the options flows, and this thing is so beat down right now that it may die. But I did enter some lotto calls on charge point just because it might get a sympathy move. So watching it a bit more to see if it holds a bounce and moves higher. Don't love the dissipation of volume here with the price action moving up. But yeah, we'll see if maybe something with Rivian or something else comes into play to get a breakout of this downtrend it's currently in. Because if it does, it's shorted enough that it can rip hard. So similar to what we saw happen on MViz when MViz came off a similar setup. And crap like that happened. So yeah, same thing, right? Keep an eye on that. What was the other one that we were looking at earlier today? Don't blink, it's been a long day. Applied Digital we looked at. Oh, sorry, Intel. So Intel's working out fantastically. I covered cost basis at the rejection, or actually I covered it before we even got to the rejection yesterday, but Intel, if it can retake that resistance level and push higher here and close that gap at 29.05, that would be fantastic. But huge breakout of the downtrend here, strong buyer movement. Strong buyer momentum with the breakout. See how the candles were increasing, so it had the push to it, and then power stepped in more and more yesterday. So Intel freaking ripped shares and calls. So that one's looking good. If there's no ETD, no, I haven't yet. Here, E-Trade Desk. So TTD, I tell you what, cat space. Row that one. I'm gonna put it on my list over here. TA request in the lounge since I haven't charted it yet. So I've got that in the lounge. I'll pull that and I'll post a detailed breakdown of that. Affirm, I think I've already got charted. Yeah, so Affirm got the breakout to the upside there, but then it's retracing here. So Affirm, you can see here, trying to push and play out this inverse head and shoulders. So looking for upside break if we can keep holding up. Honestly, that's actually good backtest entry on fresh calls if it backtests and bounce here. So I'll be watching that to see if I can get that entry for adding to a new position. Affirm, same levels are holding true though on that. SoFi real quick since it's related and in the space. The SoFi maintaining this big, wow, there's a lot of lines on this one. I apologize for all that, but y'all know we've been trading this thing for a minute. So SoFi weekly bull flag, still rocking, right? Still holding the shares at 782. I'd like to see consolidation and push to the upside. This bull flag, ideally, we'll see what happens. But yeah, the daily on SoFi, you got that pullback after some big momentum days, which is fine. That's a good opportunity to enter into fresh long-term calls. I'll be watching that to add to my position. Let's see. On that note, I might have to go rescue my wife and call it. But if there's any other tickers or anything y'all want me to look at, throw them or tag me. Either in Ethical Trading Discord, Bullish Trade Discord, the Ethical Facebook group, or any of the Facebook groups I shared the link in. I'm on quite a few and I'm always happy to help. You don't have to be in the Discord for me to help. So if there's any others you want to look at, feel free to. But on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Spend time with family. Hope everyone has a blessed and great evening, and we will be back at trading tomorrow.